You've spent thousands of hours in professional development seminars. You've spent tens of thousands of dollars on these things, but has all that been to waste? Does it apply to the most important thing in your life? I say yes, Warhammer 40,000, which is obviously the most important thing in every single person's life. Listen, it is highly affected by all the professional skills that we spend a lot of time on our non-Warhammer lives developing. So how are we going to apply our career, our professional, and our unique individual skills to the game Warhammer 40,000? We've spoken a bunch about tactics and strategies. Let's talk about some new stuff. Now, why are we watching this video? In all reality, many of the struggles in this game are actually answered by things that you already are doing every single day at your job, your career, your side hustle, whatever. Battlefield domination can be inspired by the smallest thing in everyday life. For example, you could be having a conversation with your wife and you can realize, I could have applied a principle here to my game last week, which would have made it a much more productive game. It's shocking, but true. Your wives can make you better 40K players. It is what it is. So this is a strategy game before a dice game, and the greatest strategists in history have all applied real-life skills to their individual fields, whether that was Napoleon, whether that was going to be Sun Tzu, whatever. They wrote down their wisdom that they gathered from all aspects of their lives to 40K, so that's what we're going to go through today. Guys, I'm a full-time Warhammer 40,000 coach, and I often relate game decisions to real-life decisions in order to help improve clients' skills, so that I have compiled this entire list, and I'm going to share it with you guys today. So I'm going to share 4 primary skills with you and how to develop them and how they actually apply to the game Warhammer 40K. Let's get into it. Skill number 1. This is going to be critical thinking and problem solving. Now, this might seem like obvious at first, but let me break it down for you. This is a skill that many executives and troubleshooters desperately need every single day in their normal lives. And it will dramatically, your ability to actually use this critical thinking and problem solving will always apply to the battlefield. People who are generally going to be that more entrepreneurial, people who are going to be doing the startups, these types of things directly apply to Warhammer 40,000. So there's many situations on the tabletop that you've never experienced before. Whether you're a newbie, whether you've been playing for a while, or whether you're an advanced person, you will come up with scenarios that you've never experienced before, and you just don't know how to figure them out. This is something that I regularly do in my videos. So for example, yesterday I posted a video of how to solve the problem of the Dark Angels Gladius list. While this might be like an insurmountable problem when you're playing, an army like Dark Eldar, it's really not. It just requires you to be creative and understand how you're going to actually solve the issues. And this is what critical thinking really gives to us. Let me give you a little bit of an example here. This unit, let's say the Master of Executions from the World Eaters, he has fights first. Now, how the heck do I deal with this unit when I have a purely melee army? So I can't charge them without him fighting first and killing me. And I certainly can't shoot him because I don't have any shooting abilities. So what the heck am I going to do? Well, when you have the ability to critically think and problem solve, which you can get from a bunch of different paths in life, what you're going to start realizing is that you can abuse the fight phase rules. So you could charge a different unit and then pile in to the Master of Executions. And since you've already piled in, your activation has already started, which means you will then get to fight before they get to swing. So there's lots of ways around many of these critical problems. Now, there's a lot of professions that help to develop this skill. This is going to be things like engineering, business development, medicine, law, software development. All of these professions have a dramatic requirement for critical thinking and problem solving. And if this is you, what I want you to think about when you play 40K is how do you apply the things that you know in business, in your career, to the game? And man, it's going to skyrocket your game. Let's go to skill number 2. Look at time management. Now, I have an entire video specifically dedicated to getting better at your time management in Warhammer 40K. But let's go ahead and think about this a little bit. This is very highly undervalued. Now, there's even several armies in the game that I often hear from people that they just avoid playing them simply because they believe that there's not enough time to play them. For those of you who don't know, in a standard tournament game, you typically have 3 hours to play. And it will be an hour and a half for one person, an hour and a half for the other person. In many tournaments, the tournaments I prefer, actually put this on a chess clock, so that you don't end up in these weird scenarios where you have a 3-hour round and one person plays for 2.5 hours and the other person only gets 30 minutes. It's really unfair and it's not cool. So a chess clock generally solves that problem. Not everyone likes it, but most people who have been playing for a while are highly in favor of it. So here's the deal. Here's a few tips for time management that I would recommend for everyone. Identify your priority objectives. Only really focus on the things that actually matter. Eliminate thinking about things that don't matter. So for example, if you're in round 4 and you draw, a card that you can't score and you draw another card that's only worth 2 points, and you know that 2 points won't let you win the game, I would not even focus on those secondaries at all. I would only focus on getting the primary or denying my opponent's primary, which is what's going to actually win me the game. So I would completely ignore the thing that is relatively unimportant to me at that point at all. And then the last real quick thing is to plan during your opponent's turn. Now, there's a lot of professions that have a great time management skill. So these are going to be especially things like accounting and finance people, law enforcement people, people that have to make decisions rapidly and understand that because they make rapid decisions, some other things might have to fall to the wayside. It's entirely possible that when you're fulfilling your game plan, one small minor detail might get overlooked. And that's okay as long as you have prioritized the correct objective in the game. So let's go on to skill number 3. Now, this is a skill that I think is probably significantly overlooked. So this is actually the skill of physical fitness. Now, it's not necessarily a skill per se, but tournaments are extremely long days, especially when you're starting to go to some of these majors and super majors where you can get 8 games over the course of 3 days. This stuff is exhausting. And I promise you, my wife makes fun of me all the time when I come home from a tournament and I'm like, dude, I'm knackered. I never use the word knackered because I'm a freaking American. But for this video, whatever reason, I just became British. But she makes fun of me all the time. And I'm like, stop it, woman. You don't know what it is to live my life. And then she makes fun of me for something that I deserve. And it's, is what it is. Anyway, tournaments are really long days and it can be excessive amounts of heat in those halls. You're standing all day long and there's really brutal mental engagement as you're trying to apply your critical thinking skills to the tabletop. When it's hot and you're sweating and you're hungry and you haven't sat down in 3 hours, believe it or not, you're going to dramatically decrease your level of play. Discomfort, you're going to get distracted. I have friends who I regularly play with who are better players than me, but every time I've met them in tournaments, I beat them simply because when it's round 4, round 5, round 6, I'm walking around the table looking at the table. I don't have to sit down because my back's not destroying me, all these things. Yes, I know injuries can do that too. It's not just like physical fitness, but physical fitness is a massive, massive part of it. So if I'm able to continue walking around the tables, checking lines of sight, checking positions of models, I win against people who might be objectively better players than me simply because I have much more endurance than they do. So this is why physical fitness is so critical. And here's a really big tip, guys. Everyone alive is a freaking athlete. We simply vary by the amount of athletic development required for our daily lives. Let me give you a quick example of it. Sitting on the toilet to take a poop, that's a squat. Now, you might not need to be able to squat 300 pounds to be able to sit down on the toilet, but if you don't have the muscular development to do it, well, it's going to be a problem. You're going to need those handholds, and it's going to be very, very problematic. So, guys, physical fitness is an absolute huge skill, and it's something that we all need to develop for a lot of reasons other than Warhammer 40,000. But if we're applying it to the single most important thing in life, which is clearly Warhammer 40,000, then do your damn push-ups and, work out a little. Let's talk about the 4th skill. This is going to be communication. Now, in all reality, this is probably the most important skill for Warhammer 40,000. A lot of people just completely overlook this. Remember, everyone, this is a 2-person game. If you don't communicate with your opponent, it's very easy for this game to devolve into an unfun experience for at least one person. I cannot tell you how many games that I have just watched and I see it devolve into arguments and fights, and a person's like, blah, 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 blah. I can't believe you didn't tell me that my little spear was sticking out, and now you're going to take me advantage of me. You're going to be like that guy just because I had a little spear sticking out. It's like, listen, dudes. It's just a 2-player game. We're playing it together. Yes, I'm trying to beat you, and yes, you are trying to beat me. So the way I recommend that you do communication, actually, I've got an entire video dedicated to this, which maybe I'll link at the end credits. So if you stay for the end credit, you'll have the video linked down for you on communication. But my recommendation is that when you play the game, tell people what you're doing and tell them what you're intending to do so that then you can work together to make sure these goals are accomplished. Generally speaking, if I have an opponent who says, hey, I'm moving my scouts into this position and I'm going to charge you, and we get into the fight phase and my opponent realized that he forgot to charge them, as long as he had said that he meant to charge it, I don't care if I'm at the finals of a golden ticket qualifying event. I'm going to let him go back and charge because he's clearly said that's what he intended to. It's a 2-person game. Work together. Communication will dramatically improve your skill at the game as well. It's not just about making the game more fun and more accessible. When you learn from your opponent, because you guys are discussing back and forth what's occurring, you actually end up becoming a better player because you're learning from each other. The greatest place I've ever learned communications was with my wife, actually. We were having a lot of communications problems quite a while ago. And the biggest skill that I learned was I realized that we process information at different speeds. This has nothing to do with intelligence. When I get information, I process it super, super quickly and I can make a rapid response. It's who I am. That doesn't even mean I'm always making the right response, by the way, but I do it very quickly. Sometimes my wife needs time to think about things to come to a decision that she is very comfortable with. So when I would get new information, I would pressure her into making a decision about that very rapidly, and it caused a lot of friction with us. So, guys, these communication skills apply to your relationships, it applies to the game of 40K, and it applies to your profession dramatically. Now, if you are in sales, if you're a therapist, if you're a healthcare professional, if you're law or a law enforcement professional, and especially someone like consultants, you're going to have these skills developed in your business. I highly recommend that you apply those to your other relationships and to Warhammer 40,000. By the way, we figured out those communication issues and everything's great now. Just saying. And then lastly, guys, let me just do a quick review of all this. These are the skills that you're going to take from your professional or your personal life and you're going to apply it to Warhammer 40,000. Critical thinking and problem solving, time management, physical fitness, and communication. If you do these things and then you apply it to all the tactics and strategies that we talk about on every other video on this channel, man, you are going to soar through the rankings and you are going to have a blast while you recognize that you are just becoming a much, much better player. So if you like this content, definitely hit the like, share, and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Those shares are actually probably the biggest thing that you can do to help the channel grow. Other than that, hop in the Discord, join our TTS leagues, and join the conversations we're having every single day to try to figure out how to become better players in Warhammer 40,000. Until next time, have a great day. Bye.